Hey, welcome to the Old School Show. I'm your host, Coach L.O. Grant, longtime wrestling and football coach for 30 years and now retired. Hey, let's have a little fun today, telling a story and also starting some rankings. So here we go. Even though I mainly coached football and wrestling during my career, I did coach cross country for 1 year. Now, it was 1977. And our cross-country coach had just stepped down. I didn't think much of it, but a couple of my colleagues suggested that I apply for the job. Now, I was in my second year of teaching, still a beginner. I wanted to coach football, but they didn't have an opening on the football staff. I was, however, on the wrestling staff as an assistant coach. Now, one of the reasons I got into teaching was so I could coach. Well, I didn't even have to apply. The AD called me in one day to discuss cross country. Now, our AD was an old Irishman, Edmund Murphy, a rather rotund fella, if you get what I mean. Now, Mr. Murphy encouraged me to apply for the cross country job, said it would be good for me. I could learn more about coaching in general. Well, I listened to his pitch, and I finally said, Mr. Murphy, I don't know anything about cross country. He looked at me and he said, "You run from point A to point B." And that was that. I took the cross-country job, and I'm glad I did. I had fun. I learned what a great sport cross-country is, and I learned on a limited basis how to coach the sport. Now, the first thing I did was buy a book, The Long Green Line by Joe Newton, legendary cross-country coach at York High School in Elmhurst, Illinois. His program was elite, probably the greatest ever, at least in Illinois. I learned his philosophy and training methods. Now, I had to scale down the workouts for my guys because we weren't even close to the level that his program was. So it was a great experience, and I'll give you some advice. If you want to learn a little bit about building a program, I believe there's a documentary on YouTube about Joe Newton and his Elmhurst York program. What you'll learn is how to build a program. There's a good documentary. I don't care if you're coaching football, wrestling, baseball, basketball, track, whatever. The idea is you have to build a program. It's more than just I'm coaching a team. You learn how to build a program, and you can get a lot of tips from Joe Newton, how he built his program in cross country at York High School. Well, I only coached it for a year because in the spring, I took a job at a different high school. I was hired as the head wrestling coach and assistant football coach. Big step. And, well, that's another story. Now, in the last episode, I said I was going to start a countdown of what I think are the 20 greatest running backs in NFL history. Well, I decided to make it to top 50. So we're going to get started on that. Now, I decided to make it 50 because it's my show and it's my ranking, so I guess I can do whatever I want. And here's another thing that I can do whatever I want. I had a tie at number 50. And you say, well, Coach, you can't have a tie? Well, yes, I can, and I did. And here we go. I had a tie at number 50. Number 50, Red Grange. 6 foot, 180, the Galloping Ghost was his nickname, one of the greatest nicknames in all of sports, by the way. He was a two-time NFL champion, two-time All-Pro. He was on the NFL 1920s All-Decade team. He was voted as one of the 100 greatest Chicago Bears of all time, but the main thing he did was he helped put pro football on the map at a time when a lot of people thought pro football was just a circus. So he had a lot to do with influencing the sport. My other number 50, Larry Brown, 5'11", 195, drafted in the 8th round by the Redskins to be a blocking back. And in his second year, he led the league in rushing. Played for the Redskins. He was the 1972 Player of the Year and MVP. I love the way Larry Brown ran the football. Number 49, Chuck Foreman, 6'2", 210. He ran for 6,000. He received for 3,100. Great dual threat running back, 5-time Pro Bowl and All-Pro twice. NFC Player of the Year in 1976. Foreman played for the Vikings. Here we are in my number 48. Chris Johnson, 5'11", 195. Ran for 9,600 yards, and in 2009 ran for 2,006, one of the few players to run for 2,000 yards in a season, and that certainly gets him on my list. He set a record for yards from scrimmage. Number 47, a guy that you may not have ever heard of before, would be Ernie Nevers, 6 foot, 205, one of the best players in the first half of the 20th century. He did it all. He could run, he could pass, he could kick, he caught punts, he ran back kickoffs. He did everything. Member of the 1963 Hall of Fame, and he set a record of 40 points in a single game that I believe still stands today. He was the dominant player of the 1920s. And we're going to wrap it up with number 46, Roger Craig, a 6 foot, 220 pounder, ran for over 8,000 yards, another dual threat running back for the 49ers, 4-time Pro Bowl, NFL Player of the Year in 88, 1980s All-Decade Team, 3-time Super Bowl champ, first player to have 1,000 yards running and receiving in the same season. What a player Roger Craig was, and we'll continue this countdown next week with number 45 and on down. And we're going to close it out with this thought from the great Red Grange. He said, "There's a lot of things you can learn on a football field. You learn how to take a good licking and not cry about it. And you learn how to hand one out and not brag about it." Well said, Red. Hey, be sure to like and subscribe. Ring that bell button, that notification button, and we'll see you next time on The Old School Show.